Hey everyone, welcome to A Friend of a Friend. This is episode and week number 2. This is a brand new show I'm super excited about, where I'm talking with different people, learning a little bit about where they're from, what they do, what they're passionate about, and asking for a little bit of advice that they can share with us to make our lives a little bit better. I'm pumped up. Last week, I kicked it off by talking to one of my best friends, S. Grant Parker, and at the end of the episode, he passed it along to Gentry Wigginton, who is also one of my best friends and an old friend, who I'm going to be speaking with today. Uh, Gentry and I grew up going to church together from a very, very young age, and we've remained friends. He is one of the owners and founders of Living Waters Brewery, which is an excellent brewery and coffee shop, which I love because a lot of y'all know I don't drink. So Gentry is in charge of their coffee program, and they are one of my favorite spots in town. No, they are my favorite spot in town. So sorry, everyone else. They were they're the ones that hosted the Space Prom after party last year that some of y'all might have been to. So it's gonna be a real treat talking to Gentry. He's a very wise friend, and yeah, I'm very very excited. Um, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Nordista Freeze, and I'm an artist out of Nashville. And the show is called A Friend of a Friend. It's part of Freeze TV, which is a new project I've been launching across like Instagram, YouTube, and all the audio platforms that you can find podcasts. And yeah, if you enjoy it, please consider subscribing. I live here with my parents in their basement, and any support goes a long way. It's just you're just supporting me, and you can trust me. I'm an honest person. So yeah, that's all. All right, let's get into it. Let's get Gentry in here. Gentry,
Hey, what's
we're
up,
doing it,
Freeze?
man. Hey, great to see you. Welcome to Friend of a Friend. This is episode
Thank
2
you.
of the entire series. With S. Grant Parker being kicking it off last week. He picked you as his friend that inspires him and that he wanted to bring on the show. So now we're talking to you. And it's great to be talking to you because you're also just a great friend of mine. So you're a friend of a friend today, but you're also just a great friend. So thank you for coming on to talk with me.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah, huge honor to have been the friend suggestion from S. Grant Parker and to be on here with you, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a really good one too, man. And yeah, so thank you. I want to first ask you some questions that I will know a little bit more just because I do know you well. But for everyone listening, I want to ask you first, like, where you're coming from, like, what city are you from, and where are you coming from today?
Yeah, Nashville, born and raised, and still in Nashville. Uh, yeah,
That's cool. What compels you to stay there? Like, why? What do you love Nashville, or is it something about the work you found there or the people?
kind of all of the above. Like, one, I've always enjoyed Nashville, and like, while there are tons of other cities that I think are beautiful and awesome, I've never really felt the compulsion to like leave Nashville or to like restart. Like, I do have a lot of friends and family and just community here, and so like that's one thing. But also like growing up all through like high school, like we got to see Nashville kind of go from what it was a decade ago plus and watch this like growth happen. And that's been something
Right.
that's been really cool to watch and like to begin to be a part of as well. And to watch you guys be a part of like the music scene and growing in that, as that's always been a thing, but like watching where that is going and has gone. And then also for myself, getting to be a little bit in on the food and bev scene in town, which is um, really, really grown. Nashville's always been a music city, but I feel like in the last decade or so is really when the food and beverage scene has popped in town. So just seeing this like growth of culture has been something that I also think has really kept me in. But yeah,
That's
that
cool.
and support systems.
Yeah, right. What is it that you do here in town? Like whether it's work or something you're just passionate about, what is it that you're doing most
Yeah.
days?
So as far as work goes, I am part owner and the front of house / coffee bar manager for Living Waters Brewing. We're a craft brewery and specialty coffee bar located over on the east side of town on East Trinity Lane, right next door to Grimeys. Um, so I kind of headed up the coffee program there and do a lot of the front of house management. But we are open 7 days a week, serving up some tasty coffee in the morning, beer in the evening, also serving tea now. But yeah, we're just kind of a group of guys that are nerds about beverages. And so we decided to make that into a career somehow.
Yeah, right. And so you handle the coffee and the tea side of things now?
Yeah. Yeah. Correct. There are my two business partners are the guys over the brewing program as far as the beer side of things go. And I head up the coffee front. Yeah.
Cool. And y'all are all like co-owners of this project?
Yep.
That's cool.
Indeed.
How did you like meet them, or how did you go about? Because I know personally, I know your story, and that
Yeah.
you were that you like were a barista for a long time, then were like managing shops. But I actually still don't know like genuinely how you got connected with those two to start this place.
Yeah. So two business partners are Thomas Becker and Ryan McKay. And I guess from my perspective, you and I grew up going to the same church together, Antioch Church of Christ in Antioch, Tennessee, outside of Nashville.
That's right.
And Thomas has been going there for as long as I can remember as well. He's a little bit older than the two of us, and he was always around at camp running the AV tent and doing truck band and stuff. And so like Thomas is someone I don't remember not knowing, basically. And so one day, for a few years, I'd heard my dad talk about, oh, there's this guy that's at Antioch who, wants to open up a brewery. I'm like, okay. And then I get a text from my dad. It's like, hey, I gave your number to Brian and Thomas because they're talking about doing coffee as well. And so then Thomas texted me like a couple days later, and it's like, hey, Gentry, I'd love to give you a call and talk to you about something real quick. Like, sure, man, just call anytime. Here's kind of my availability at the moment. And so he ends up calling me and was like, hey, so I'm not sure if you know, but Brian and I are opening up a brewery. But we've kind of been brainstorming, and we both like love coffee, but neither of us really know coffee or have ever done coffee or have any experience. So, I mean, would you be interested in just like talking to us, seeing if this is a good fit or something you want to do, or at least just like giving us some advice or leading us in a direction with that? And so I went over to Ryan's house like the following week and just hung out with him and Thomas, and we brewed some homebrew beer, and then just kind of kept hanging out with them. And then eventually we were like, okay, I think this is gonna work. Like we meshed well together as far as like a working relationship goes. And from then on out, we had been building it, and now we've been open for a year and a half.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. Like how has it been obviously during the pandemic and stuff already? I mean, from what I understand, starting a brewery or starting a restaurant is already a very difficult thing, and this has been like the most difficult time of our lives. So how have you been able to get through that, whether financially, or also just like I guess I'm really curious, just like emotionally, or like how do you process, how do you feel like able to get up every day and like still feel motivated to keep going at it?
I mean, as far as the business goes, yeah, we had been open for 8 months before lockdown like hit Nashville.
Wow.
And businesses had to close. I was at my parents' house one night actually, and I get a call from Ryan. It was like, hey, the mayor just ordered all bars to be shut down. We don't know what that means for us because we're not technically a bar, but we're getting together and having a like emergency meeting. So I was like, okay. So I hopped in the car and went. from the time, it's been a challenge for sure, but we've been able to adapt and change what we were doing all through lockdown. Like we just kind of rolled with curbside, came up with different packages that we could serve to meet different needs. Started doing like large format coffee to go in like 32-ounce cans of cold brew or iced lattes with oat milk and stuff like that. Retail coffee, as well as we had a number of like faithful patrons who all through lockdown and like the thick of that, who like would walk by every day and like place an online order for a latte just to like keep supporting, which was huge.
Yeah.
So all that was great. And honestly, as far as the things coming in for the business, and things aside from that, as well as emotionally and mentally, it's really just been a lot of prayer and just leaning into like trusting in the Lord. I kind of took a lot of the lockdown time to kind of just like hunker down and try my hardest, and I didn't do a great job of becoming like a quasi monastic, like just spending time and prayer and meditation and scripture, and that's been really great for me personally. But then as things kind of reopened, ball dropped on some habits and practices. But I can't imagine as a business owner and just an individual making it through the last year at this point without having just that assurance that God will provide. Everything will be okay, no matter how things end up or what they look like. Like everything is, at the end of the day, is gonna be okay. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Right. That's cool. That's really beautiful. Yeah. Do you feel like it's like just a day by day thing, like the process, just like every day, just continuing to take another step and like keep pressing on and just having trust that, like that scripture, like tomorrow will worry about itself, that kind of idea?
For sure. And I think in a lot of ways, this season warrants that. I think on like, especially on like a emotional, mental kind of level, because yeah, exactly. You don't know what tomorrow holds. And not to say like, don't plan, don't try and figure things out. Don't just like sit with on your hands, like, and just like wait for something to happen. Like obviously go out and do things, but ultimately, yeah, like we have today and that's about all that's guaranteed. And so I'm going to do what I got to do today and plan ahead for the future, but not worry, not fret more than I need to, aside from, setting things in place for those things.
Yeah. Beyond like work and just generally in life, is there like a motto, maybe like a verse or some sort of a like motto that you live by, or like a piece of advice that encapsulates a lot of what you think about, that you could share or like offer to us as a piece of advice?
So I guess my piece of advice, it's not very succinct, could maybe pull a motto out of it, but would just be to like find something to like root yourself in. Like for me, it's largely been community. Community has been a huge thing, and just like having intentional relationships with certain people, with my wife, with my friends, with my larger scale community, of like having intentional times that I'm able to interact with people, whether that is face to face, like small group in the home, or whether that's over Zoom or FaceTime or something like that. But whether it's community or something else, I feel like just having something to just really ground yourself in, especially over the last year. Community, I feel like, was so huge because it would have been really easy to just get secluded and become a recluse, not have that human connection that I think is super important for everyone.
I think so too. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a really hard time to like navigate community amidst a time when you're supposed to be staying away from people face to face and
Yeah.
all that. Yeah, well, I think that's awesome. I think that's a really good piece of advice. So thank you, and I appreciate you taking time to meet with me tonight. And my only final question is to pass the torch. The torch was passed to you from Grant, and I'm who is a friend of yours that you think would be willing to come on the show and talk to me for a little bit and tell a little bit
Yeah.
about their story and offer some advice, maybe.
I have thought a lot about this since I found out I was going to be on. Like, I think this has been the most stressful part for me to like figure out who I'm going to give you as the next person. And I've thought about different people from, musicians, artists, photographers, designers that I've, been connected with over the years. But I think who I've settled on, is a guy named Lawrence Reeves, who's a buddy, an old coworker. I worked with him back in the day at Honest Coffee Roasters, and he spent some time as like working for different coffee companies as a coffee roaster. But he's also a photographer and does a lot of freelance creative work with photography and stuff. And him and another guy actually are in the process of opening up a coffee shop and whiskey bar in Columbia, Tennessee. So
Oh,
that is
really?
who I think I'm going to pass the torch to, Lawrence Reeves.
Lawrence Reeves. Okay, cool. Wow, this is exciting. You totally have potential to keep it within someone I know, like and you've taken it. This is exciting. This will be the first stranger to have on the show. A true
Yeah,
friend
I
of a
figured I'd
friend.
try and like push things, out.
Yeah, we'll be heading down the road to Columbia. Sweet. Okay, cool. Well, I'll hit you up and we can see how to get in touch with him, and that'll be great.
Heck yeah, man.
Thanks for everything. Thanks for being a part of this.
Yeah, thank you
No
for
problem.
having me.
It was an
Cheers,
honor.
buddy.
I'll see you later, man.